All right, welcome in the latest episode of Floor's Yours on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, an extension of 5 on the Floor. Make sure you check out all our great sponsors, including Prize Picks. If you're looking to play daily fantasy because your fantasy team sucks, you've given up on it, this is the best way to go. It's the most fun game to play. Greg's pointing at himself. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Go to prizepicks.com. You'll be able to double your initial deposit. So make sure you check that out. Prizepicks.com. Again, use the code 5. All right. Also check out 5reasonsports.com. All the latest from Brady Hawk. He's writing stories about players that the Heat may draft in the year 2070. He's run out of current players, so make sure that you check that out. We have no paywall, so you can read all the Brady stuff and everybody else's stuff for free, including David Fernandez and Juan Cardona and Josh Houts on the Dolphins, with Tua looking to go 3-0 this weekend against the Chargers, and we'll have our Kylie Wang there at the game. So we're covered for everything going on this week. But for today, we know YouTube is down. People are saying, where are you guys? I don't know if we can put something in the chat here, Manny, to explain. Okay, thank you. Kind of what's going on. But YouTube has been down most of the day, so we pushed back from 8 o'clock to 8:30. We're going to roll with this and then put it up on the YouTube feed later. We moved it back a half hour for Alex, and he's still late. So I've got Greg Sylvander above me. I've got Alphonse Sidney, and I've got the Clutch Man, Clutch NBA 5R, Adam Borai here. We're going to start from the very beginning here with Adam because we got 2 different reports from our guys, 2 of the people who are here today. Alf, you and I are the ones that broke no news today. We suck.
That's not new for me, so.
No, it's new for me, though. All right, so we've got Greg, we've got Adam. Adam, let's go to your report first. What was it?
Yeah, so basically what I reported is that James Harden has quietly told close associates that if the Rockets were to blow up the team, he already has a few teams in mind and where he would want to get traded to. I said one of them was the Miami Heat, another one was the Brooklyn Nets, and the Philadelphia 76ers.
All right, one follow on this. Since your report, Shams Charania of Athletic and Stadium has reported that Russell Westbrook has requested a trade. So if the second shoe to drop was needing Rockets to decide to blow it up, moving the other star of the team, although he ain't a huge star at this point in my view, but moving the other huge star on the team would be breaking up the team. So that leads us more to this. Now, I have heard Philadelphia repeatedly for Hardin, because we've been reporting for the last 4 months, thanks to our friend George Sedano, that Daryl Morey was going to be the GM in Philly. So we assume that this may occur. Alf, let's get to you, because I've polled this. We'll get to Greg's report on the draft a little bit later, but I've polled this, and it's funny because I think I'm going to be outnumbered 4-1 on here, but I'm now outnumbered on our poll. Our poll right now is almost at 2,500 votes in an hour. Would you make a run at James Harden if he's available? And we're at 48% yes and 52% no. Alf, you are a yes, I believe.
Yeah.
When and how the hell did this happen?
Because I slander players that aren't on my team. But when they're really good, I could care less. I mean, I'm not going to let any personal feelings about the aesthetics of James Harden's game stop me from wanting him on my team. Like, people are like, "Oh, I wouldn't trade a hero for James Harden." You're all smoking rocks. Like, James Harden is a top 5 player in the game, like at least offensively. Like, he's one of the best scorers in the game, one of the best scorers in league history. And if you believe in Heat culture the way you guys say you believe in Heat culture, they'll teach him how to play defense. In fact, he actually has been a pretty good defender the last couple of years. So that whole thing is tired. Him dribbling the air out of the ball is because they told him to do that. Like, that was the game plan in in Houston. He played as a team. He played on a real team with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Like, he played with superstars. Like, he knows how to play in that fashion, and he was a good, productive player. Like, so this whole idea of not wanting James Harden on your team because some people say that Harden is better than Dwayne Wade, and you're in your feelings and getting in Twitter beefs over it. Like, get out of here with that. Like, James Harden, if you can get James Harden, you take James Harden. Like, let's be adults about the situation. Sorry, Ethan.
No, it's quite all right. Alex, your turn.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much right there with you, Alf. Like, I really do think Harden is that type of talent that you gotta really consider it once he becomes available. Especially if you're hearing this buzz about him really being interested in coming to Miami. We've heard the buzz about him kind of having relationships with some of the players here. We know we got other reasons to believe he would like Miami as well. But but the Harden thing to me, it's just like it's unquestionable. Like I think the really fair question is kind of what Leif has pointed out, especially on Twitter, is if it gets you out of the Giannis thing. And I guess like that's a really great problem to have. I tweeted earlier, I like that the evolution of the Giannis Harden dynamic is them fighting over who gets to come to the Heat. And that's kind of how I feel about it. It's like I understand that point of thinking, but it's also like if that becomes available to you, it's going to be hard to imagine them not really looking into that. And even though I do believe that if they were to actually get into that, that talk with Harden, it would be like, they were going to need him to buy in. And I feel like a trade wouldn't happen without that happening first.
Greg, you have a pulse of kind of their direction. And obviously Harden's a whale. There's no, whether or not, he plays like a beached whale to me at times, he's still a whale. And so it would seem to me that if you're going to blow up the Giannis thing, it is for a whale. We talked about Lillard in that context, a player I prefer to James Harden by a lot. But if you're talking about James Harden, is this something that they would just say, okay, the Giannis thing is dead, we're going to let it go? Or maybe they have a feeling that the Giannis thing is not going to happen, although that's contrary to all evidence that we've gotten over the past week.
Yeah, that's the tricky part of this. If they know that Giannis is going to stay and take that Supermax deal, or he's going to go elsewhere, Toronto, Golden State, then obviously I think Harden's totally in play. I don't think it's unrealistic at all. He is like the Shaq trade. Like that's that kind of move where you go and get a guy that's kind of, disgruntled to a degree and you revive him. And Harden is a lot better than Shaq was at the time. There's a couple of wrinkles to this that I think we should consider. One is that, obviously, the Giannis thing I already mentioned, and that you kind of need to have some clarity there. Two is we talked a lot about Jimmy looking at, and Stefano Fasaro was actually instrumental in us kind of reporting on this along the way last year regarding Jimmy and his ties looking at Houston. And if there was anything that was going to happen with Houston, that means that he and Harden were having conversations then. So I think that there's something to be connected there. And the last thing is this. If Bam Adebayo were to walk into Pat Riley's office and say, I want my extension this summer, and that's just how that goes, there's too much uncertainty, I want my financial security now, then I think, like, if you have to give up that flexibility because you got to max out Bam now, then the trade market is really your avenue, and then the Harden move, becomes even more plausible.
All right, Adam, I'm going to let you expand on this a little bit before I weigh in. All right, so the things that Greg is talking about there, there is a relationship between Jimmy and Harden. That is real. I don't know that it's closer than some of the others we've talked about, but there's a real relationship there. More so, honestly, than the relationship between Jimmy and Giannis, for the record, okay? The Giannis thing is more on Bam's side, and that's why I've said, we've talked about this, Greg, a lot, that, like, the list that Bam has and the list that Jimmy has may not be the same lists. They're different types of lists. But Adam, is there something you can expand upon here about the relationship? Like, what would be attractive about Miami before we get into my problems with this? What would be attractive about Miami for Harden?
Well, I think aside from the fact that it's a much cleaner fit than people realize than the Giannis fit, you see, like the thing is, I see them both as the same, Giannis and Harden, in terms of making the Heat a championship contender. So if you have Harden and you add him to this roster, you're a contender for the next 3-4 years, however long Harden's prime lasts. So you want to take that option rather than the possibility of adding Giannis, because you don't know if that's a guaranteed. So if you could trade for Harden now, you do it, you accept it, and you win rings with it. But the thing is, Jimmy sees Harden as, I'm pretty sure he sees him as top 1 or top 2 players in the NBA. That's how he sees Harden. I don't think he feels the same way about Giannis. Right. I don't think he feels the same way about Giannis. And what would be appealing for him to be in Miami is, well, I'll say this. It's more appealing than the other options, right? The other options are Philly, Brooklyn. Brooklyn, there's only one basketball, and you have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Philly, the Rockets aren't going to want to trade him to Daryl Morey, so they're going to ask for a lot more than they would from other teams. So from the East, it really leaves realistically Miami.
Right. Now, is there any word that he wants to get to the East? Some players prefer to be in one conference or another. I've never heard him express that. He's never had the opportunity.
It's more about he wants to be on a contender in a big market.
Okay. Well, he was on a contender in a big market, but it doesn't look like they're going to be a contender. How does the Westbrook piece fit into this?
So it's really interesting because Shams then came out with a report saying that James Harden is committed to the Houston Rockets and their approach this season. I see this a lot like last year when the Thunder traded Paul George and Russell Westbrook didn't say he wanted to get traded. He let the Thunder do their job and they traded him to the place he wanted to go to. I see this as James Harden is trying to keep his reputation like A1. He doesn't want to ruin his reputation because his best friend wants to leave. The fact that the Rockets traded however many first-round picks to get Russell Westbrook, for Russell Westbrook to say a year later he doesn't want to play with his childhood best friend, like, come on, let's think about this for a little bit. So I think this report from Shams saying that Russell Westbrook wants out leads me to believe that there's more to it than James Harden is saying, okay, if they do, decide to break off or blow it up, he might want to leave, because I think he does. At this point, I think he does.
All right, so let me get to my things so you guys can shoot me down here, right? Because I seem to be alone among all of you, although not among the fan base.
Boo.
I am generally a believer that if you get the best player in a trade, you win. Okay, that's typically how this works out. Like whenever, and that has been the Heat's approach. You trade 2 or 3. If necessary, good players, very good players. If you get the best player in the deal, you win. There's very few trades in history that don't indicate that. This goes all the way back to the Barkley trade, the Phoenix, lots of different trades. There's very, very few trades where the team that gets the multiple good players wins the trade. So I understand that, okay? So I'm going counter to my general philosophy and to the Heat's philosophy. I just can't watch that MF play. I just can't. It's very simple. I mean, point at me, but I don't want to see it. And I think you guys are wrong about how they'll get him to conform. I don't see it. He was playing for Mike D'Antoni. Mike D'Antoni was 7 seconds or less in Phoenix. Okay. You did not. Thank you, Royal. You didn't. I appreciate you joining us tonight. Groupon Alf. Okay. You know what? Right now, you're luxury Alf.
I don't think you could say that, Ethan. I think only Alf could say that.
No, you're luxury Alf. Right now you're like platinum Alf. Okay, Alf is Groupon Royal. That's where we are right now. I don't think you're gonna get a guy who's been running ISOs for the past 6 years. This is like the Carmelo conversation. It feels to me like and yes, will they try to break down? I'm not even worried about the defense. Okay, he has lapses on defense. When he actually concentrates, he's not bad. But he has a lot of lapses. But when he concentrates, he's not bad. But I think you're taking a team where it was an egalitarian system. The ball moved. They liked playing with each other. And now you're bringing in the guy who is total counter to all of that. And you mentioned it too. It's funny. You said he'd like Miami. He'd like Miami Gardens. Okay. The reality is he's going to be at one place all the time until 6 a.m. We know what place that is.
We didn't know that. There's plenty of options.
He's already been there a lot this summer.
No, I know that. He's probably keeping the place in business. Was he there before it even opened? For real?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they just kept the place open for him.
Yeah, I drove him over there.
And look, I'm sure you drove him over there. I don't have an issue with him going there, but I'm just saying that to me, he's counter to all of it. And I know, and now I know the next thing I'm going to get is the Jimmy Butler thing. But to me, it's very different than Jimmy, okay? Jimmy's whole thing is about winning. It's all about winning. Whatever issues he has is with his teammates not working hard enough. Harden is like the opposite. So
wait, have we ever heard that Harden doesn't work hard? Like,
look at him.
No, that's not true.
Wasn't there a report that came out saying that he was usually the one that would stay in the gym till 4 a.m. and they would
Ethan, like honestly, I think you're extrapolating things like way too like hardcore. Like you almost sound like the emotional fan. Like you never sound like this guy. When it comes to Harden,
I don't want to
like you're
It's
nothing
Harden and Kyrie.
personal.
Harden and Kyrie.
No. Kyrie's different. Kyrie is different from me. I've never had a bad interaction with James Harden. Okay, so this is not bad. Kyrie is different. Okay, I had to deal with Kyrie for a year. All right, so that I come from it. Put Kyrie and Harden on the same team and see how that shit works. Okay.
Oh man, they're trying.
Okay.
They're trying.
They're trying. But Kyrie is a different situation for me. I don't have an issue with Harden personally in any way. I just don't like watching him play basketball, and I think you guys are going back to where he was with OKC in 2012.
No, I'm going back to last year. He's amazing. Like what are we doing? We are overanalyzing.
You don't think he's amazing during the Dwayne Wade debates?
Of course I don't, because he's not Dwayne Wade. All right, let's calm down. Let him do it 3 times on the way to rings, and we'll start talking about it.
He's a 30% 3-point shooter in the postseason on extraordinarily high volume.
Okay, and
averaging 34 points a game.
But
and how many times have we talked about that teams get to load up against him in the playoffs because he is their entire system? That is not happening in Miami. He does not become.
He played with Chris Paul. He played with Durant and Westbrook. He played with Paul, and he played with
Durant and
Westbrook.
They didn't load up against him, and he played fine.
And he was the 6th.
And he was like 23.
He played fine in the 2012 finals.
Oh, he also was a kid playing against LeBron, Dwayne, and Chris Bosh. Like,
listen,
come on.
Hold on. Let me level set expectations here. Just think about this though. James Harden, to acquire him, you're going to have to empty the treasure chest. And you don't have to do that with Giannis or maybe some of these other guys that become available. I mean, Trilly's been on the timeline talking about how in 21 there could be guys in 22 and 23 that become available, and how it's not the end all be all for 2021. So I think that there's just so many options that I just don't know that they're going to send Hero and Robinson. I mean, what is the package going to look like to acquire James Harden?
It's everybody.
I think that's actually the question here. Not whether Harden is worth it.
The thing is, though, Greg, you're saying, okay, there might be a guy in 2022 that comes available, but guess whose contract is over in 2022-23? Jimmy Butler. So we're in the same position as we were 2 years prior. We'll always have cap space if we need it. So I just don't think that the fact that you can't punt on the possibility of getting a guy like James Harden because of that reasoning.
But the other thing we're not looking at, guys, is you were talking about Giannis and Harden and making a choice. First thing, Greg's right. You wait a year on Giannis, you don't have to give up anything. All right, if you think you can get him. And I still think they're positioned to do it. The second thing is you're talking about a 4-year age difference. And not just that. It's more than 4 now. How old is Harden now? 31?
I don't know. He's younger than me.
Isn't he 5 years older than Giannis?
He's 30 or 31.
Okay, I think he's 5 years older than Giannis. All right. So that's the other part of this, because you're talking about a guy with, I mean, how many minutes has that guy played? How much wear has been on his body? You think that body's going to break down well? Like, people were worried about Jimmy and the wear and tear. Are you sure you want Harden as a primary scorer in 2 years?
Yes.
I have no objections to his game. I just don't like the idea of all of these cost-controlled young players that we have that are perfect surrounding pieces that we just completely just let all them go, when you can just be patient and someone's going to become available and you get to get them.
But you can be patient and not get anyone.
Exactly. That's why it's like such a.
But it's not going to happen.
So when the hell has that happened before? Like, I mean,
never when they've had space.
They picked.
It happened when they had space. I mean, we went through like 5 years of them having.
But they almost got Durant and Gordon Hayward, who were say what you said about Hayward, but they were the prizes.
That's a lot of almost
with no money.
That's a lot of almost with Jimmy Butler getting older every year.
But Bam's growing into his prime, and you'll have other guys growing into their prime.
Ethan, can I pose a question like this? If you were to kind of list all the ways to make Harden work as a championship, type of player in this league, does Miami, in the situation that we like that the Heat have, like, does that not check all the boxes? And I do understand what you guys are talking about when it comes to whether it's attacking now or attacking in 2021. And at the end of the day, though, it's like, do you want to play that game where it's like you put all your marbles on Giannis and that's the whole situation?
But you're not, though.
I know that there's other guys involved, but we're talking about
it may be Beal who'll be. Look, I'm maybe in the minority here. If you're going to empty the treasure chest, I empty it for Bradley Beal, not James Harden. He's younger. To me, he's more coachable at this point. You don't?
That's an interesting question. I mean, emptying the treasure chest, I feel like Harden raises the ceiling a little bit higher than Bradley Beal. I mean, just by virtue of the 60 point. I mean, like Harden's the guy that if anyone's going to score 81, isn't it James Harden? You know what I mean?
Cares? Like, I don't mean to be flippant about this. He's a great scorer. Is he the piece that you're going to guarantee winning with? And to me,
100%.
it's not enough to give up everything else
Ethan,
and have to watch that crap. Go ahead.
Ask Laker fans if they would rather have those young pieces this year and Anthony Davis.
I would give all this up for Anthony Davis. I'm not giving it up for James Harden. I'm sorry.
That's crazy.
Harden's a better fit than Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis is a better player than James Harden.
They picked up Duncan Robinson and Kendrick Nunn off the streets.
That's what I'm saying. They're going to. You're like, no, we can't get rid of all these young assets. These are guys they picked up off the trash heap. They can find it again. I'd love if they can keep either Duncan or Hero. And honestly, let me couch all this by saying I don't believe James Harden is coming here. I just think it's a fun topic to talk about. Adam, I know what your reporting is. I just don't see it happening. I just think other people can put better trade packages together than the Heat can. But at the end of the day, a lot of the guys that the only lottery pick that you're worried about giving up is Hero, right? And he's not. Yeah, Hero. He's the only guy in any of these trade scenarios that is
We're not
a lottery
giving up
pick.
Premier Bam.
Exactly. Obviously, send the floors, send the Vice jerseys, send everything. I don't care what you said. Just keep Jimmy Bam and Spo and add Harden. And honestly, me and Adam can go out there and I can play a little power forward.
Alf, what are you going to think for his first 9 of 29 game in the playoffs? Because they're going to happen.
He's not taking 29 shots.
Yeah, there's no way he's taking 29 shots on this team.
You guys think a guy who's 31 years old has been playing a certain way for 6 years under a coach who was a pace and space guy, who Spo has held up as his model, that all of a sudden he's going to come down here to play for the guy that followed D'Antoni, and all of a sudden he's going to get rid of all those ISO habits, and you're just...
So first of all, so you think Harden has a Heat on his list thinking he's going to come down here and shoot 29 shots a game?
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Would he shoot 29 shots in Brooklyn? He has both of those teams on his list. And those
maybe this last playoffs humbled him.
I don't think anybody humbles that guy. But I will say
he's never had a Jimmy Butler on his team, though. He's never had a Jimmy Butler. He's had a Chris Paul.
Chris Paul is the closest facsimile to Jimmy Butler in the league from a personality standpoint.
On those 9 for 29 nights are also going to be the same nights where Jimmy has a 40-point triple-double.
There we go.
Listen, man, Harden will come here and still be the best player on the team.
Man, what has happened to all of you? Okay, all right.
That's important. That's important to him.
He'll come here and be the best player on the team? No, he won't. In a year, Bam's going to be the best player on this team, whether Harden's here or not.
Well, that's great. Even better.
Throwing that out there.
I mean, the guy's a top 5 player right now, or he's right around there. I think we might be overthinking a little bit. Remember where we were with Tyler Hero a year ago.
This isn't about Tyler Hero. I don't view James Harden as a top 5 player.
Somebody said you can't give up Caron Butler for Shaquille O'Neal.
I'm
guaranteeing. He's a selfish guy. He doesn't work hard. He's just gonna come to Miami and party. I'm guaranteed there wasn't YouTube back then, but there was like a Hammer and Hank radio show where some asshole called up
Coachy and Dutch. Shout out to Coachy and Dutch.
It's probably Hank.
Somebody called up from a mobile. And Frankie on a mobile called up and said, "I don't want Shaq here."
Who was that guy? Who was that guy at Palm Beach? Oh, it was Dre. It was Dre from Palm Beach. He used to call me all the time.
The Knicks fan.
He was the Knicks fan. Yeah, the Knicks fan.
He's actually very big on YouTube. He covers rap battles.
Does he really?
I don't know if you guys knew that.
We've learned something tonight. That's great. All right, let's get to this. We've done enough Harden. By the way,
one last thing, Ethan.
Yes.
Before we get off this topic, I tweeted.
Yes.
I tweeted that if the Rockets chose to blow it up, he has 3 teams in mind. I did not say James Harden has requested a trade. Here are his 3 teams. I just want to clarify that for all the people that are DMing me right now.
Adam, it doesn't matter if you try to clarify now. People don't understand the difference between rumors, sources. You're reporting something as fact. They don't care.
Once it hits NBA Legion, you're done, Adam. It's done. It's over. It's in
like NBA Facebook.
It's in that space.
If it doesn't happen, they're going to come for your neck. I mean, you just know that.
Sham said that James Harden is committed, and I got 5 different people DMing me saying, "Oh, look at this."
Well, that's the other thing. I got that with the Jimmy Butler stuff a year ago because Shams and Woj were reporting stuff that was just inaccurate the entire time and kept saying that the Heat were not on Jimmy's list. And then, of course, they totally flipped and never acknowledged that they were wrong all along. But anyway, this episode is brought to you by Biscayne Bay Brewing, the official beer of not only Inter Miami and the Marlins, both going to the playoffs, but also 5 Reasons Sports. Go to BiscayneBayBrewing.com to find where it is in your area, whether it's your Publix. But make sure if you go to restaurants, ask for it because a lot of South Florida restaurants are stocking it, but it's not on the menus yet. So make sure you check it out. That's the Marlins Lager. The Pale Ale or the Tropical Bay IPA, any of the 3 of them, check it out on BiscayneBayBrewing.com. All right, let's get to your report, Greg. Go ahead.
So we've heard, each NBA team gets to work out up to 10 prospects. We've heard that 3 have definitively auditioned for Miami, one of which being Vernon Carey Jr. from the freshman out of Duke, big man. I have been poking around. We just actually did an episode that's going to drop soon with Alex and Brady regarding all the bigs in the draft, and we talked about Vernon Carey a bit. So I was poking around and ended up catching a pretty strong indication that Miami is extremely interested in taking Vernon Carey if he is there at 20 and they stay at 20. There was a big if in capital letters sent to me when that information was given. So I think that they're definitely looking to potentially move the pick, but I know that a lot of people have called out smokescreen on this one. I think that they are legitimately interested in Vernon Carey for a number of reasons. One, he's gotten in shape in the last 6 months. I think that there's been reports he's lost 30 pounds or so. And the other thing I heard from somebody who was actually in the building during the workout with Miami was that he shot lights out, and they really were impressed with his shooting ability, and so that has kind of tipped the scales a little bit in his direction.
And remember, it was Bam's shooting that actually attracted in that workout that they kept talking about, and Hero's shooting also. So that does mean something. By the way, I'm familiar with Greg's information on this, and it's legit. I did some of my own checking this afternoon as well. So what you've heard is correct. He's definitely on their radar. And let me ask you guys something. I'll go to you on this, Alex. If Pat said he's going to make the pick, but may not keep the pick.
Oh yeah.
And obviously, if there's somebody like Hardin involved or somebody else like that, then that pick's probably going to be flipped, right? Because you've got a rebuilding team, you may be making the pick for somebody else, and we got to consider that. Whoever they pick next Wednesday, he may not be staying in Miami. If they take Vernon Carey Jr., this is a name that Heat fans are actually familiar with because they're familiar with his father. They're familiar.
Not all of us.
His pet. Well, you're not familiar with anything. You thought it was Brian McKinney's son. But most Heat fans, other than the Heat Twitter president, we have a Heat Twitter president who just gets things. He doesn't even follow his daily briefings. He's just like the real president or the president or the outgoing president. He just doesn't
read any of the briefs.
It doesn't.
Oh my God, Leif sent a list of like 50 different prospects. If any of you guys thought for a second I was reading that, you were high. You're all.
I knew you weren't.
You sent the entire draft.
What's that?
He sent the entire draft.
I mean, oh my God, he did research. It was amazing. Like, I'm proud of Leif for doing that, but I'm also not reading it.
I read it, but you did read it. But that's fine. We expected that. I mean, why would you read anything? I mean, it's just, again, just
Let's
like
make fun of me for it. It's all good. That's what I'm here for.
It's the example that's been set in the country.
Because you know what it is? Like, people are going to get their feelings hurt over a Sekou Doumbouya or whatever his name is on draft night again. And start talking about Tyler Hero's short arms or get mad about Bam. Why the hell would you draft Bam? Like, they're gonna do it again. So, like, to me, I just say, let the Heat do their job. Whoever they pick, I'll just say, oh no. And then after one Vegas Summer League game, we're all gonna go nuts. Like, this was a great pick. It's just so stupid.
Except
it's like a cycle over and over again. We're like hamsters in a wheel.
Except there is no Vegas Summer League or summer this year. Alex,
it's gonna be tough.
Don't forget that. Alex, let's just ask, if they take Vernon Carey Jr., though, most of the fans, because they know the name, are going to be okay with it. Is he a fit for this team? I mean, and will it be disappointing if he's taken to be shipped?
I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, if you take him, I kind of see the vision with him. I think he's a fit once there is kind of a spot. Alf wants Precious Achua. Is that how you pronounce his name, by the way?
That's how we had Alf pronouncing it the other day on the pod. Yeah.
I mean, by the way, this is a great name draft. Like there is many good names in this draft. We could have a whole podcast on the crazy names.
No, we did. We asked Alf if they were real players or not.
That was just the bigs. But you like
but he said
look at those names.
He said he would never take someone named Precious though. So
I changed my mind. How much fun would that be?
How about Jay Scrub with 2 B's?
No, I can't rock with that.
He watched him work out.
I'm gonna call him Random Scrub Heat Killer all the time.
Yo, that is fresh.
Every time he has a bad game, look at that Random Scrub Heat Killer. Sorry, Alex, go ahead with your analysis of these people that we haven't watched play a second of college basketball.
Listen, man, off the few YouTube videos I've seen of Vernon Carey.
Well, YouTube is down, so you're screwed.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad I got all the work done beforehand. I'll be screwed right now. I would have came on here just not knowing anything. No, I mean, look, man, you can see the vision with him, right? Like the guy knows how to play in the paint, right? He can really dominate in the paint, even though he lost 30 pounds. They were worried about his lateral quickness. Again, he lost 30 pounds, so that part should help out. And I mean, he shot well from the 3, and when he played for Duke, and we know these college offenses are pretty clogged ones too. So I feel pretty good about that. The guy has a slow set release. So, he's one to take open threes. He's not going to be some dynamic shooter. But at the end of the day, that's all they're really going to need him to do, as long as he can kind of have an inside-outside game. And I think really the question with him is how good can he be on defense? Can he guard 4s and 5s? I think people had, questions about his rim protection, but I don't know how much he will be playing next year. Anyways, it kind of depends what happens in free agency. But how surprised would you be if there actually is a spot in the rotation for a frontline player like Vernon Carey? Because I'll be kind of surprised. It seems like they're going to nab a veteran to add to what they have right now, even if Myers walks.
Yeah, I mean, Adam, what's the likelihood of them actually keeping this pick?
I don't think very high.
Oh.
I honestly think it's not their pick anymore.
Oh.
No, not like that. Well, no, relax a little
What do
bit.
you mean not like that?
But maybe.
Emojis.
There may have been there may have already been a deal, but I mean, you never know.
What do you mean there may have?
I just don't think it's realistic for them to keep the pick as contenders and you not expecting them to flip it into something more impactful right away.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
I mean that's my prediction too. I don't think he's keeping it. I really don't. It's why I didn't do quite the deep dive that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that why you and Alf, you guys both knew that they were trading the pick, right?
No, Alf's just lazy. But I mean, with me, it was actually a tactical decision that it wasn't worth the time because they're probably going to move him. Let's go.
Even you admitted that the reason you don't know any of these players is because there was no March Madness.
I usually pick it up during the conference.
Okay, so let's stop. It's not just I was lazy. They weren't readily available on primetime TV for you to watch. That's why.
Have you guys have ever heard of YouTube before? It's this crazy new thing.
Okay, honestly, you could make a YouTube highlight reel of me playing basketball. I'm not talking about
highlight reels, man. They have these crazy breakdowns now.
You watch whole games on YouTube,
man.
Yeah, Alf, go watch some whole Duke games. Go right now.
Believe me, yeah. Wait for that one.
You watch YouTube because we don't want to watch full games. That's where you have it wrong.
I'm saying you could make a highlight reel of me on YouTube that makes me look like a first-round draft pick.
No, we could not.
No, you probably can't. But
what's the scouting report on you?
From the bed to the couch. No,
the scouting report on me is can't make layups, can't shoot, can't dribble, can't pass.
What's the upside?
Can rebound adequately for a 6-foot fat guy.
Crown and Coke
low
culture.
IQ with potential.
Cannot no games before 4 p.m. because I'll be hungover.
That's right. That's right. You've been fitted perfectly with the Knicks.
Also, no games after 6 p.m. because I'll be drinking.
Are those Harden's rules?
Yeah, the Harden rule.
This is why you want Hardin. He reminds you of yourself.
Oh my God, it's like looking in a mirror.
Walker.
All right, let's Adam. Let's go through a couple of the other NBA rumors here before we close this thing up. Anybody who's looking for the Harden conversation, we did that the first 20 minutes, so just scroll back on the channel here. Let's go to the Holiday situation and the Chris Paul situations. How do those two play out? Because there was some news with Jrue today.
With Jrue, I don't really buy into the Hawks rumor as much. I think that's more of them gauging what his value is. I think it was more back and forth of the Hawks, or rather the Pelicans leaking stuff just to see if they can get the value up. But I think the Bucks, if I were just to name random teams, the Bucks and the Nets are my top 2 teams for Jrue.
What about Philly for him? Going back.
No. For Jrue?
Yeah.
I just don't think they have the pieces unless you make it a really complicated trade.
Isn't it going to be a complicated trade with him, though? I feel like that's going to be a 3-way deal. I don't see a direct matchup, even with the Heat. I don't see it. If the Heat aren't giving up Hero, there's not going to be a 1-for-1 there.
No, you're right. It's going to be, I think almost every trade this offseason is going to be a 3-team trade just because of how complicated the cap situation is. But for Philly in particular, it's because they don't have the contracts that would make it work. Because you're not trading Simmons for Jrue. You're not trading Embiid. So what can you do?
No.
It's Josh Richardson, Al Horford somewhere else. Then you're taking back contracts. It's really complicated.
Matisse Thybulle, I guess, is probably one of the guys that they would dangle.
Thybulle will be the guy.
But he's not making money.
You're right. The contract is really low. The team that interests me most with Jrue, and this is really the team that I think every one of these guys we should throw their name in the mix, is Milwaukee. I feel like they're just desperate to figure out something to entice Giannis to stay and sign that supermax before the season starts, and a huge acquisition. Jrue Holiday maybe doesn't fit that bill. Do you think that they would have the guts to go get Russ or something like that? Like, I feel like although that's an awful fit. Yeah, it's awful, 100%. But I feel like who's going to gift Milwaukee the perfect player that makes Giannis stay there? I just don't see that happening. So I feel like they're going to make a panic kind of move, and I feel like that's why ultimately Milwaukee is going to dictate some of this from a trade perspective.
I'm with you on that, but Russ. To me, the only option for Russ is New York. Just let Russ go to New York, shoots 38% from the field, score 30 points a game.
Philly.
Oh my God.
Oh gosh.
Russ with Ben. Jesus. I don't know about
That'd be amazing.
I will say this. I'm going to acknowledge something.
The point guard, man.
I'm going to acknowledge because we give Alpha a hard time. But before we close this episode, we got more episodes coming up, as we mentioned. You guys already recorded one last night. Thank you guys, by the way, much appreciated. But Alf, I do want to acknowledge one thing you had right last year. I remember being out in Vegas for Summer League, and we did the whole Westbrook episodes, and you were adamant against bringing in Russell Westbrook. And the majority of Heat fans, and actually I was kind of pushing it at the time, were in favor of it. And I now use this as an example of be careful what you wish for. Sometimes guys are not the right fit for your program, and you're better off hanging tight, letting your players develop either for you or into better assets. So I'm a little confused why you were so anti-Russ last year, which was the correct sentiment, but you're pounding the table for James Harden right now. But
because we all knew Russ couldn't defend. James Harden has proven that he can defend. Russ he's been a good defender the last 2 years. He's
a good post defender. Yes, he has lapses defensively. A lot of
he'll be fine. He'll be fine under Spoelstra. But Russell Westbrook is such an inefficient chucker. Harden has his bad games. He has a 9 for 29s, but his true shooting percentage, his effective field goal percentage, he's an efficient player. When you break it down, like how he scores. So I think that can always translate. The way Russell Westbrook plays, I don't think translates anywhere. It'll never translate to winning. I don't ever see it happening. So if I was right last year, listen to me again.
Adam, I'll let you close. You got any other nuggets here? And not Jamal Murray?
I would think I think Greg would agree with me on this one. I would say the Bucks, if they're going to improve this team, they will get one of these three: Jrue, CP3, or Depot. So if they're going to improve the team, they're absolutely going to get one of those three. And I actually think that the Suns deal with Chris Paul, while it sounds like it might be set in stone, I still think that could be a leverage play to get the Bucks to up their offer.
I think you're right about that. Philly is used often Phoenix is used often in that way.
Yes, they are.
And all the time. And it strikes me that if Chris Paul wants to finish with a contender, even if he looks at Phoenix as an up and coming team, why would he want to leave OKC, which also has good young pieces, to go to a good young pieces team in Phoenix with a bad owner, right? Which has never converted anything out there for years. Unproven in terms of coaches. To me, it doesn't make a ton of sense. That one I don't really get. I mean, to me, Chris Paul is going to want to play in Milwaukee, and of the guys you mentioned, I mean, any of them, Jrue, any of them are good fits. I think it may end. I think I would lean towards Chris Paul, but I also think the Depot thing is real. I think that could definitely happen. I think that's the kind of move you take a flyer on it for a year. You don't have to give up everything. And then, you see if you can get Giannis to stay that way. Greg, you have anything else before we close?
How about Russ for Depot? No. The only other thing I guess that's worth mentioning is that I think that we're getting some pretty big indications that Paul Millsap is interested in Miami. We've talked about that. We talked about splitting the mid-level with him and Wes
those
Matthews.
Indications on IG because he's liking every Miami Heat post basically in the past week?
Yeah, and there's a lot of whispers about Millsap being interested. So I'm interested to see if maybe this is another situation where he is a higher priority wanting to come to Miami than Miami has him as a priority to sign him. So we'll see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm. Oladipo, that one's true. You got closing statements, Alex or Alf?
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's going to be funny to see what happens with the Bucks because it reeks of desperation. And Ethan, I've been inspired by you, man. It's going to be funny to see what happens with whatever Anton Jameson they land over there.
No, thank you very much. That's exactly right. It's just like Swingman Mo Williams as Chris Middleton. It's whatever Antoine Jameson that they land.
I have a question for you guys, actually. Do you think that the Rockets, if whatever they trade Russell Westbrook for, do you think they're still a championship contender?
Nope.
No.
No shot, right?
No.
Okay. Just for your James Harden thoughts.
Look at you trying to
I
sneak
don't
some
think
stuff
any
in
team
there.
with James Harden is a championship contender, but I'm in the
Oh my
minority.
God.
I see what you're doing, though. I see the connection Adam's trying to get us to make, though. He's like giving us hints while trying
They're
to
blowing
say
it
things
up.
directly.
No,
I appreciate it.
I'll rewatch
It's literally the same thing as Paul George and Russell Westbrook last year. And
Right?
they said Woj reported it, Russell Westbrook is committed to the Thunder. They said that last year. He wants to play the rest of the season. And then the news started coming out. He is welcoming of a trade. Well, now it sounds like he wants to be traded out. Well, now he likes the Rockets. Now he likes the Heat. It's the same thing.
Shots fired, Shams.
Take
In
it.
your face, Shams.
That's all right.
Same thing.
Al, final statement here before the recounts and we get you out of office.
I have two things. First, Ethan, please watch some James Harden YouTube highlights.
No.
Now
No.
that they're back up.
I'd rather watch Gerald Green. Go ahead.
And everybody's saying that please have Alpha on another draft pod. Why do you hate me? Please do not get upset draft night about whatever the Heat do because you guys look like idiots every year. Just do what I do and just as soon as the Heat make a pick, Google them real quick. So that you can come on a podcast afterwards and talk intelligently about it.
It's better not to Google them.
No,
Don't
sorry,
Google
no.
Right after the pick. Like, don't do it like before. Like everyone wasted their time on Sekou for weeks last year and all this stuff. Wait till they pick somebody and then Google them and then come on a podcast and act like you know everything about Tyler Hero his whole career. He's from Wisconsin. You didn't know that?
I thought Miami Heat beat was supposed to cease existing after that draft. Well, they kind of did. I took everybody I wanted. All right, let's check out PrizePicks.com. Use the code 5 FIVE. Also go to BiscuitBayBrewing.com. We'll have our guy Brady Hawk on here over the next week as well. We're thinking about doing a big extravaganza next Wednesday night. So the election stream went so well that I think maybe we'll bring Chris Joseph and Slim on this one too. All right, everybody, that's it. Adam can keep dropping ridiculous hits on Twitter. Follow Clutch NBA 5R. Have a good night.